Commander Dresmore strode through the gleaming corridors of the Xeraxian High Command, his 4 arms clasped firmly behind his back, carapace polished to a perfect shine. Junior officers scattered from his path, sensing his barely contained excitement. After 3 centuries of meticulous service, the discovery of the Sol system would be his crowning achievement. Inside the mission preparation chamber, holographic displays showcased the unremarkable yellow star and its planets. Dresmore's compound eyes focused on the third world, a blue marble swirled with white clouds. Primitive radio signals had already been detected, confirming intelligent life, but the civilization appeared to be in its technological infancy. "Commander, the Survey Division has completed the resource analysis," announced his second, Vector, extending a data crystal. "The planet contains exceptional mineral diversity and significant quantities of rare isotopes. The indigenous species has barely begun to tap these resources." Dresmore's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Categorization status: Class 3 Civilization. Pre-unified planetary government. Nuclear capable but limited spaceflight ability. Standard subjugation protocols apply. Excellent. Prepare the contact flotilla. Dresmore paused, noting Vector's hesitation. "You have concerns, second." "Sir, word of the Oracle's warning has spread among the crew. Many are uncomfortable with this mission." Dresmore's upper arms twitched in irritation. "Superstition has no place in the expansion fleet. Remind them that we have encountered 43 other sentient species, all now productive members of the collective. The humans will be no different." As Vector departed, the chamber door slid open again. Clara entered, her scientist's robes bearing the distinctive quantum patterns that marked her dual role as theologian. "I expected you'd come," Dresmore said, not turning from the display. "The Council is making a grave mistake," Clara stated, her voice modulated to perfect calmness. "The Xeraxian way. There is more to the Oracle's warning than simple danger." Dresmore finally faced her. "We are beyond Oracle's importance, Clara. Our science has mastered 1,000 worlds. And yet, in 5 millennia, the Oracle has never been explicitly wrong." She approached the display, adjusting it to show Earth's chaotic weather patterns. "Look at their world. Constant flux, unpredictable systems. Their very biology evolved in chaos. They think differently." "Different does not mean superior," Dresmore countered. "Their technology is primitive, their social structures inefficient. They wage wars among themselves over resources they lack the organization to properly extract." Clara zoomed the display to show human art, paintings and sculptures that followed no discernible pattern optimization. "They create without templates," she said softly. "They innovate through intuitive leaps rather than logical progression. Their greatest advances came not through systematic research, but through what they call inspiration, a concept we have no word for." Dresmore dismissed the images with a wave. "Poetry and music won't defeat quantum shields and plasma cannons." Clara's compound eyes fixed on his. "The Oracle didn't warn that they would destroy our bodies, Commander. It warned they would end our certainty. Consider what that truly means for a species that has built its entire civilization on predictable patterns." As she departed, Dresmore returned to the display, briefly allowing himself to consider her words. Then, with precise movements, he activated the mission commencement sequence. The expansion fleet would depart at dawn. Some warnings, he thought, were meant to be ignored. Junior Commander Tazrell winced as the medical drone sealed the wound on his upper right appendage. The projectile, primitive lead propelled by chemical explosives, should never have penetrated his armor's molecular weave. The humans had somehow struck precisely at the microscopic joint between plates, a vulnerability not listed in any technical specifications. "Statistical anomaly?" he asked the medical officer. "Impossible," she replied, mandibles tight with stress. "The probability of randomly striking that exact point is 1 in 7,453,221. They should not have been able to identify the weakness, much less exploit it. Their cloaked reconnaissance vessel hung in low orbit. The failed contact team huddled in the briefing chamber. Science Officer Mexel, the most junior of them, looked up from his data analysis. "I believe I understand what happened," he said, his voice modulator pitched uncomfortably high. The humans didn't identify the weakness through analysis. They simply fired many projectiles, at varying angles, until one worked. "Wasteful," Weapons Officer Vexner scoffed, his ceremonial staff now scared where a human child had struck it with a metal bat. Their ammunition supplies would deplete rapidly using such tactics. "But effective," Tazrell admitted, studying the drone footage again. The humans had moved erratically, without discernible patterns. When the team had deployed in standard intimidation formation Delta, the humans had immediately scattered, making targeting impossible. No practice drills, no visible command structure. Yet somehow they'd coordinated without communication devices. The communications panel chimed. Dresmore himself appeared on screen, his carapace coloration indicating barely controlled fury. "Explain this failure," he demanded without preamble. Tazrell straightened, ignoring the pain. "Commander, the contact protocol was compromised by unexpected indigenous response patterns. You violated direct orders by initiating contact without authorization," Dresmore interrupted. "Your incompetence has compromised the entire operation. The humans now possess Xeraxian technology." "Primitive technology only," Tazrell protested. "Basic weapons and a damaged communication array. Nothing they could possibly reverse engineer without centuries of study." Mexel shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, with respect, I'm not certain that's accurate. I observed humans immediately experimenting with our dropped equipment. One female began disassembling a stun baton, bypassing security protocols through methods that followed no logical sequence. Impossible," Dresmore and Tazrell said simultaneously. Mexel displayed his findings on the main screen. A human teenager had already activated a Xeraxian energy cell by connecting it to a primitive electronic device, something the humans called a smartphone. "They don't follow our technological logic paths," Mexel continued. "They try random combinations until something works. It's inefficient, but surprisingly effective for improvisation." Dresmore's compound eyes narrowed. "Your team's failure has forced my hand. The humans cannot be allowed time to study our technology. The full battle fleet will commence subjugation immediately." After Dresmore's image vanished, the chamber fell silent. Finally, Tazrell spoke. "Has anyone else considered what scientist Caleris said about the Oracle's warning?" Vexner clicked his mandibles dismissively. "You're not suggesting primitives could threaten the collective?" "Not with weapons," Tazrell said quietly, watching the footage of humans rapidly adapting to alien technology. "With ideas." Below them, in the small town of Millfield, Nebraska, 13-year-old Amy Chen had just figured out how to power her entire house with a single Xeraxian battery the size of a marble. She was live-streaming the discovery to 50 million viewers worldwide. Dr. Amika paced the laboratory floor at Area 51, gesturing with a piece of alien technology that resembled a metallic spider. Around him, 70 of Earth's most brilliant minds worked in organized chaos, breaking every research protocol ever established. "Conventional scientific method won't work here," he announced to the gathered team. "We don't have time for hypothesis, testing, peer review. The Xeraxians think linearly. Each technology builds logically on previous principles. We need to think in quantum leaps." On the main screen, footage from Millfield showed civilians experimenting with alien tech. A farmer had connected a Xeraxian power cell to his tractor, inadvertently creating a hovering vehicle. A teenager had hacked into what appeared to be a Xeraxian entertainment device, accessing their equivalent of the internet. "They're coming back," General Chen stated flatly, entering the lab with the Secretary of Defense. "Our deep space monitoring stations just detected hyperspace signatures. Multiple vessels, much larger than the scout ship." Amika nodded grimly. "How long?" 18 hours, maximum. The secretary looked pale. Can we evacuate population centers? Establish underground shelters? That's exactly what they'd expect, Emika replied. Their psychological profiles suggest they rely on predictable response patterns. But we have something they don't understand. Creative improvisation. He unveiled the breakthrough, a crystalline component extracted from the Xeraxian communications array. This transmits quantum-entangled particles across vast distances. We've modified it to hack their battle network. Their systems have no protection against certain frequency patterns because no logical engineer would use them. They create signal interference. What patterns? The secretary asked. Emika smiled. Jazz. The mathematical unpredictability of bebop disrupts their quantum algorithms. We're deploying it through broadcast satellites now. Meanwhile, in orbit above Mars, Commander Dresmore received troubling reports from the advanced probes. His four-fingered hand crushed the report tablet. Explain how primitives intercepted encrypted communications, he demanded of his science officer. Unknown, Commander. Their technology should be incapable of detecting, much less decoding, our transmissions. Dresmore's mandibles clicked in agitation. And these modifications to our equipment? The science officer's carapace paled slightly. They've altered a Class 3 power cell to produce 400% efficiency by introducing deliberate instability to the containment field. No Xeraxian would design something so dangerously unpredictable, yet it works. On the Xeraxian homeworld, Clara faced the increasingly concerned High Council, her research findings projected on the chamber walls. The humans are accomplishing in days what should take centuries, she reported. Historical records confirm this isn't unprecedented. The Lost Expedition 3 millennia ago reported similar observations before communications ceased. The Grand Counselor's voice wavered. You believe the Oracle's warning referred to ideological contamination. Clara nodded. Humans don't think like us. They embrace uncertainty as a creative force. If Dresmore continues this invasion, humans won't just defend themselves. They'll introduce their chaotic thinking into the very fabric of our civilization. She displayed her final evidence, the recovered scout ship captain's last transmission from 3,000 years ago. They see beauty in imperfection. They find strength in variety. They welcome change. Everything we fear, they embrace. As Clara prepared to depart in the stolen experimental vessel, a junior archivist approached her with a final data crystal. What the Council doesn't know, he whispered, is that the Oracle hasn't been warning us away from Earth. It's been preparing us for the inevitable moment when our orderly cosmos must face beautiful chaos. Dresmore's command chair pivoted as another proximity alarm wailed. Through the view screen, he watched 3 human fighters executing maneuvers his combat simulators classified as aerodynamically impossible. Yet there they were, their primitive metal frames reinforced with reverse-engineered Xeraxian field generators, moving through patterns so erratic that targeting systems couldn't establish lock. 62% of our fleet showing shield disruptions, his tactical officer reported, voice modulator unable to fully mask his anxiety. The humans are targeting specific frequencies. They shouldn't even be able to detect our shield harmonics. Dresmore's claws dug into his command console. How are they communicating targeting data? We've jammed all electromagnetic frequencies. They're not, came the astonishing reply. Each fighter appears to be operating independently, yet somehow achieving coordinated effects. On one of Earth's remaining military bases, Flight Lieutenant Sofia Rodriguez banked her F-35/Z hybrid fighter at an angle that would have torn a conventional aircraft apart. The Xeraxian shield technology they'd reverse-engineered and improved allowed her to pull 30 Gs without crushing her human body. Sierra Squadron, continue disruption pattern Coltrane. She ordered into her helmet mic. Remember, they can't predict jazz. Her squadron, fighters from 7 different nations, deployed in an improvisational formation based on the mathematical properties of bebop. Their maneuvers, following no predictable pattern, confuse Xeraxian targeting systems designed to recognize logical flight paths. Inside Rodriguez's cockpit, a salvaged Xeraxian tactical display showed enemy vessel vulnerabilities discovered through thousands of simulation attempts. Not through careful analysis, but through thousands of trial-and-error scenarios run on gaming computers worldwide. Teenagers playing what they thought was a new online game had mapped weakness points that Xeraxian engineers never considered because they would require illogical attack vectors. Back on the Xeraxian flagship, Dresmore faced a choice he'd never encountered in 3 centuries of military service. Uncertainty. "Commander," his second reported, "the humans have penetrated our information network. They're using our own battle coordination data against us. Impossible. Our encryption is logical, sir. They didn't break the code. They inserted deliberately chaotic data patterns that our systems cannot filter because they follow no recognizable algorithm." Dresmore watched as another of his vessels lost propulsion, dead in space after human fighters executed what should have been a suicidal attack run that somehow succeeded. For the first time, a disturbing thought formed in his precisely ordered mind. What if Clara was right? What if humans' chaotic thinking wasn't primitive, but fundamentally different, a parallel evolution of intelligence that Xeraxian certainty had never prepared them to counter? He dismissed the thought. 5,000 years of Xeraxian expansion couldn't be wrong. The humans were just lucky. "Deploy secondary fleet from hyperspace," he ordered, "and prepare the tectonic destabilizer. If we cannot defeat their primitive vessels, we will make their planet uninhabitable." As the massive weapon began to extend from beneath his flagship, Dresmore felt something unfamiliar, a sensation the humans would recognize as doubt. On Earth, as General Chen watched the battle displays, a communications officer interrupted with urgent news. "General, we're receiving a transmission from another Xeraxian vessel. They claim to be defectors." On screen appeared the face of Clara, her message simple and chilling. "The weapon they've deployed will destroy your continental plates. You have 17 minutes to prevent extinction." Clara's stolen vessel, the Voidstalker, shuddered as it decelerated from hyperspace. Its experimental engines weren't designed for such a hasty jump, but she'd had no choice. The ship's view screen displayed Earth, beautiful, blue, chaotic, and surrounding it, the imposing formation of Dresmore's invasion fleet. "Transmission established with human command center," announced the ship's AI in perfect Xeraxian efficiency. On Earth, General Chen and Dr. Okonkwo stared at the alien face on their screen, similar to the hostiles, but with scientific markings they hadn't seen before. "I am Clara, scientist theologian of Xeraxia," she began. "The weapon Dresmore has deployed targets planetary fault lines. Once activated, it will trigger simultaneous tectonic events across all continental boundaries." "How do we stop it?" Chen demanded. "Conventional attacks are useless," Clara replied. "The destabilizer is protected by redundant shield generators calculated to withstand any logical attack vector." "Logical being the key word," Okonkwo interjected. Clara's compound eyes shifted in what might have been the Xeraxian equivalent of surprise. "Precisely. The weapon has one vulnerability. Its power coupling was designed with perfect efficiency. It cannot handle energy fluctuations outside predictable parameters." "You're suggesting we overload it with random energy patterns?" Chen asked. "Impossible by Xeraxian standards," Clara confirmed, "but perhaps not by yours." As they spoke, Mexel entered the human command center, escorted but unrestrained. The junior science officer had spent the past 72 hours voluntarily sharing Xeraxian technical knowledge. "Clara," he exclaimed, "the Oracle's warning. It's happening exactly as predicted. The humans cannot be cataloged or predicted." Clara agreed. "They're proving even more adaptable than the historical record suggested." Mexel turned to Okonkwo. "I've been studying human music, jazz specifically. The mathematical properties are fascinating. Structured chaos, patterns within randomness. Like our thought processes," Okonkwo nodded. That's why your systems can't predict our tactics. On Kalera's stolen ship, alarms suddenly blared. Dresmore's vessels have detected me, she warned. They're jamming communications and deploying interceptors. Before the transmission cut, Kalera transmitted one final data packet, the complete technical specifications of the tectonic destabilizer. As Zeraxian interceptors surrounded the Voidstalker, Kalera made a decision that would have been unthinkable months earlier. She intentionally overloaded her engines in a random, unpredictable sequence, something no Zeraxian engineer would ever attempt. The resulting energy surge created a localized reality distortion that allowed her ship to slip past the interceptors through what humans would later term a quantum jazz improvisation. Meanwhile, in the Earth Command Center, Rodriguez had arrived from the aerial battle, her flight suit still smoking from close encounters with Zeraxian defense systems. "The planet killer is deploying," she reported. 15 minutes until it reaches optimal firing position. Mexel studied Kalera's specifications. There's a thermal exhaust port that connects directly to the main reactor. "Let me guess," Rodriguez said grimly. "It's impossible to target." By Zeraxian standards, yes. The energy beam would destroy any vessel before it could approach close enough. Okonkwo suddenly smiled. "But we're not Zeraxians. We do impossible things before breakfast." She turned to Chen. "General, have we finished modifying those E-impulse warheads with the Zeraxian power cells?" Chen nodded slowly, understanding dawning. "Rodriguez, assemble your best pilots. We're going to need a very unorthodox attack run." "Jazz pattern approach?" Rodriguez asked. "More like death metal," Chen replied. "Something so chaotic no logical species would ever attempt it." The hybrid Frankenships of Earth's last defense squadron looked like mechanical abominations. F-35 airframes jury-rigged with Zeraxian technology, power cells modified beyond their intended parameters, weapon systems that mixed human missiles with alien energy projectors. Colonel Elena Rodriguez led the 12 pilots through final preparations. None wore traditional flight suits. Instead, they donned experimental pressure gear lined with Zeraxian shield emitters. "The approach vector is suicide by any conventional analysis," she told them, displaying the holographic battle plan. "The destabilizer's energy beam will destroy any ship following a predictable path. That's why we're not going to use one." In orbit, Dresmore watched the destabilizer extend its primary emitter toward Earth's surface. In 9 minutes, it would reach optimal firing position. "Commander," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the planet. 12 small craft launching, configuration unknown." "Irrelevant," Dresmore dismissed. "No vessel in their primitive arsenal can penetrate our defensive screen." Yet something troubled him, a sensation alien to his perfectly ordered mind. The humans had already defied simulation predictions 17 times in this conflict. Their chaotic tactics shouldn't work, yet consistently did. On Kalera's ship, now positioned behind Earth's moon, she watched the human squadron launch with a mixture of scientific curiosity and something approaching admiration. "They're actually attempting it," she murmured to herself. "A mathematically impossible approach." Her sensors detected the squadron splitting into 3 teams, each flying patterns based on different musical structures: jazz, heavy metal, and classical fugues. The resulting flight paths created electromagnetic interference patterns that resonated with Zeraxian shields in ways their designers had never anticipated. Rodriguez led her flight directly toward the destabilizer's energy beam. Conventional wisdom, human or Zeraxian, dictated this was certain death. But her squadron had synchronized their shields to pulse out of phase with each other at microsecond intervals, creating a quantum uncertainty field. "Remember," she told her pilots, "think chaotically. Your instincts are the weapon they can't defend against." As they entered the weapon's defensive perimeter, Zeraxian targeting systems failed spectacularly. The human vessels appeared to be simultaneously in multiple positions, a quantum superposition effect that the rigid Zeraxian battle computers couldn't resolve. On his flagship, Dresmore watched in growing horror as the impossible unfolded before him. "Target them manually," he ordered, but his gunners couldn't track the erratic human ships. The first wave of Frankenships reached the destabilizer's outer shell. 7 were destroyed immediately, their pilots' sacrifice creating momentary shield fluctuations for the remaining 5 to exploit. Rodriguez's fighter, trailing plasma from a near miss, reached the thermal exhaust port Mexel had identified. Instead of launching her modified warhead with precision, she did something no Ziraxian would ever consider. She crashed her entire ship directly into the port. The resulting chain reaction was catastrophic. The destabilizer's perfectly balanced power systems, designed for optimal efficiency with zero tolerance for fluctuation, encountered the ultimate chaos, human unpredictability weaponized. As the superweapon began to disintegrate, emergency protocols jettisoned Dresmore's command module. The automated escape system launched him toward Earth's surface as his flagship exploded behind him. Tumbling through atmosphere, Dresmore experienced a moment of perfect clarity. The Oracle's warning finally made sense. The humans hadn't defeated his technology. They'd defeated his certainty. Their chaotic thinking had found possibilities his ordered mind couldn't conceive. The command module, designed to survive any logical crash scenario, plummeted toward Earth's most chaotic ecosystem, the Amazon rainforest. Dresmore's command module had crashed into the heart of the Amazon 3 days ago. The survival pod's automated systems had deployed perfectly, creating a sealed environment that should have protected him until rescue arrived. Yet nothing in his extensive training had prepared him for Earth's chaotic ecosystem. His 4 remaining officers huddled inside the pod as the jungle's cacophony surrounded them. Outside, rain fell in patterns their meteorological sensors couldn't predict, turning solid ground to mud without warning. Indigenous life forms, insects mostly, found ways into systems designed to be impenetrable. "Commander, communications remain non-functional," his second reported. "The atmospheric ionization from our fleet's destruction is blocking our signals." Dresmore stared at the tactical display, showing human special forces closing in on their position. "We must relocate before they pinpoint our crash site." The decision to abandon their secure pod violated every Ziraxian survival protocol, yet remaining guaranteed capture. As they ventured into the rainforest, Earth's environment assaulted them directly. The humidity interfered with their exoskeleton's cooling systems. The ground itself seemed alive, shifting treacherously beneath them. Creatures with no logical place in an ordered ecosystem thrived in chaotic abundance. "There's no pattern to any of this," his weapons officer complained as they struggled through dense undergrowth. "How can so many competing species coexist without destroying each other?" When a sudden tropical downpour separated Dresmore from his team, he took shelter beneath a massive tree with buttress roots forming a natural alcove. There, exhausted and alone, he witnessed something that would forever change his understanding. A colony of leafcutter ants had built their home near the tree. The flash flood had destroyed half their tunnels, yet within minutes they were rebuilding, not according to their original design, but adapting to the new terrain. Without central direction, thousands of individuals made independent decisions that somehow formed a coherent strategy. As darkness fell, Dresmore observed the ants' progress by the light of bioluminescent fungi, another adaptation he would have deemed inefficient on any other world. By morning, the colony had not only survived, but had improved their structure, incorporating flood channels that hadn't existed before. Like the humans, he whispered to himself. When human special forces finally surrounded him the next day, Dresmore expected execution. His neural implant contained a termination protocol for precisely this scenario, preventing technological or biological secrets from falling to enemies. Instead, they provided medical treatment for his injuries and transported him to a secure facility where he found himself face to face with Clara and Mexel. "You betrayed the collective," he accused them weakly. "We saved it," Clara replied. "The Oracle wasn't warning against physical destruction, Dresmore. It was preparing us for essential evolution. In the briefing room beyond, human scientists and military leaders gathered with the Zyraxian defectors. On screen, the aftermath of the battle displayed the remnants of Dresmore's once mighty fleet now in chaotic orbits around Earth. "We've decoded the complete Oracle prophecy," Clara announced, "using human linguistic algorithms that approach language patterns unlike anything in our methodology." The full message appeared, no longer fragmented. "Beware the blue world, not for danger to your bodies, but for transformation of your minds. They will teach you beautiful chaos, the evolution your species requires to survive the coming galactic winter. Their patterns exist where you see none. Their strength lies in adaptation you have forgotten. 5,000 years of certainty has led to inevitable stagnation. Earth is not your destruction. It is your salvation." 6 months after what humans had already begun calling the Oracle War, Dresmore stood in Central Park, watching children play an improvisational game involving a ball, constantly shifting boundaries, and rules that seemed to change every few minutes. "I still don't understand how they know what to do without a predetermined structure," he confessed to Dr. Okonkwo, who had become his primary guide to human culture. "They're making it up as they go," she explained, smiling as one child invented a new rule that was immediately adopted by the others. "That's humanity's superpower, collaborative adaptation." Around them, New York had been transformed. Zyraxian technology, merged with human design principles, created buildings that would have been considered architectural abominations on his homeworld. Yet they worked, combining efficiency with a creativity his species had never considered. "The first Zyraxian embassy opens next week," Okonkwo noted. "Mexel seems quite suited to diplomacy." Dresmore clicked his mandibles in what humans now recognized as amusement. "He was always the most adaptable of my crew. The least Zyraxian, you might say. Or perhaps the most evolved," she suggested. On the Zyraxian homeworld, change rippled through a society that had remained essentially unchanged for 5 millennia. Clara, now leading the reformed High Council, faced resistance from traditionalists who feared human contamination of their perfect order. "We're not abandoning our nature," she assured the council. "We're expanding it. For thousands of years, we eliminated randomness from our civilization, believing it represented inefficiency. But the Oracle understood what we have forgotten. Adaptation requires variation." The new Zyraxian school curricula now included concepts previously unthinkable: improvisation, creative problem-solving, and embracing uncertainty as a positive force. Young Zyraxians took to these ideas with surprising eagerness, creating art and music that merged logical precision with human-inspired spontaneity. Back on Earth, Dresmore had made his decision. When the diplomatic vessel departed next week, he would not be on it. "I request to remain on Earth," he told the Human Zyraxian Joint Committee. As a student, Ambassador Mexel's compound eyes widened slightly, the Zyraxian equivalent of shock. "The hero of 17 campaigns wishes to become a pupil. I was defeated by a force I never understood," Dresmore replied simply. "I wish to understand it." That evening, he accompanied Dr. Okonkwo to a jazz performance, something that would have been considered sensory torture on Zyraxia months earlier. Now, he found himself drawn to the mathematical complexity hiding within the apparent chaos. As the musicians improvised, building patterns that formed and dissolved and reformed in new configurations, Dresmore finally grasped what the Oracle had meant about beautiful chaos. "Your species evolved on a planet where survival required constant adaptation," he told Okonkwo as they walked home under a sunset of unpredictable colors. "You learned to see patterns in randomness, to find stability within change." She nodded. "While yours evolved in perfect stability, allowing you to build a civilization of remarkable consistency, but at the cost of adaptability. That's why the Oracle didn't warn us away from Earth," Dresmore realized. "It was preparing us for the inevitable moment when our ordered cosmos would need to embrace uncertainty." As night fell, the stars emerged, constant yet ever-changing in human perception. Drismore finally understood the fundamental truth. The universe itself was neither ordered nor chaotic, but a beautiful synthesis of both. And in that synthesis lay the future of both species.